How and why red-blooded American men disappeared from America's top colleges, episode 5. That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. And if you're interested in learning about what I've stated in earlier episodes in this series, you can click on the video description, and there you will find links to all the previous videos in this series. Today I want to wrap things up, not because I have to wrap things up, because I could keep going, but I'm choosing to move on to other topics in my videos. And so I want to wrap things up today with episode 5 in this series. And so I want to rattle off just a few more ways in which red-blooded American males are turned off by, that's sort of a nice way of saying it, or maybe repulsed by the current state of highly selective American colleges and universities. And then I want to transition to talking about the advice that I would give a 16, 17, 18-year-old red-blooded American male who is contemplating his next moves after high school. But let's start with just a few of the ways in which red-blooded American males, let's say they get to their senior year in high school and they are great writers. So they're ready to write a strong Common App essay and supplemental essays. They have great SAT scores. Let's say they even have a 1590 on the SAT or 35 or 36 on the ACT. Let's say he has straight A's, the red-blooded American male in question, in very rigorous high school courses, amazing extracurricular activities that show leadership and originality and gumption and willingness to, change the world for the better. Everything is going in this red-blooded American male's direction toward gliding in, you would think, successfully toward a highly selective American college or university. And now it comes time to really visit these colleges in earnest, let's say in the first few weeks of his senior year before he decides where he wants to apply early decision or early action or regular or what have you. And he's just starting his college visits in earnest. He's sitting down at Penn or Columbia or Harvard with his mom and dad, maybe his sister, who knows. And they're all sitting there. This is their first official college visit. They're going to do an information session followed by a tour. And an admissions officer is getting ready to take the podium. And she, in most cases, it's of course a she, as I referenced in our last video, but sometimes it's a he. But she will take the microphone, but before she launches into sharing details about Penn or Columbia or Harvard or another highly selective American college or university that the student finds himself at for his or her, or in this case, his first information session, this admissions officer starts the proceedings with a land acknowledgement. If you don't know what a land acknowledgement is, I encourage you to look it up and research it and learn about it because you are missing out. But a land acknowledgement is a very political, very ideological, very philosophical, and I would argue very religious way to start an information session at an ostensibly secular institution like a Penn or a Harvard or a Columbia yet. But basically the way a land acknowledgement goes is before anything else is stated, it's so important to acknowledge that individuals occupied this land before the college did. And not only before the college did, but before the United States was even a country. Now, why that would be important enough to start a presentation with about why you may want to go to Penn or Columbia or Harvard or somewhere else, that is a very fair question, particularly a question that would cross the mind of a red-blooded American male who is often associated with being very virile and very confident and comfortable in his own skin. And therefore, you would deduce in many cases sort of patriotic, actually, and actually loving his country. And to hear the presentation, not start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, not start off with the Star-Spangled Banner, but to start off with a land acknowledgement of different tribes that existed hundreds, if not thousands of years ago on the land that he happens to be sitting on today in a modern auditorium during an information session. That communicates quite a bit to a very smart, red-blooded American male. And what it communicates is that the college in question and the powers that be at the college in question have a very negative view of the founders of the United States of America. And the founders of the United States of America can often be associated with red-blooded, innovative, and quite original American men. And so you've got to understand that is sort of like a raccoon doing his thing in the beginning of an information session to a red-blooded American man. That's how it's being digested. And it's purposeful. Of course it's purposeful. Now, again, I want to make very clear that I also acknowledge that the United States exists on land that was occupied and lived on by many other types of people for millennia before the United States came into being. But I do not acknowledge that that is worthy of starting an information session at any institution where a 16, 17, 18-year-old male or female, for that matter, is wanting to learn about the college that exists there today and if this is a place I want to live for 4 years. But frankly, it's a blessing in disguise for many red-blooded American men who have to endure listening to a land acknowledgement ceremony at the beginning of an information session. Again, I want to make very clear, this is not taking away I was a history major myself, at Penn no less. And so I love history and I like digging into history, but there's a time and a place for everything. I would probably be less put off by an Islamic call to prayer at the beginning of a Penn information session, or the Lord's Prayer at the beginning of a Penn information session, or Quaker moment of silence at the beginning of a Penn information session, as I would be put off by a land acknowledgement. And I think that would be very much the case for lots of red-blooded American males, but frankly, all of them. We really have to question, is this a secular institution that is a neutral institution in the pursuit of truth if it starts its undergraduate information sessions with a land acknowledgement? I think we do have to question that. The next thing I want to talk about is the way in which males have been treated on highly selective American colleges and university campuses in the United States over the last 10 plus years. They are anti-male zones now, particularly anti-red-blooded American male zones. What am I talking about? Well, fraternities are constantly being put under scrutiny and the magnifying glass. These were male spaces where males could do male things together that they like to do. But increasingly, if you look back over the last 10, 15 years in particular, fraternities have been under the gun as it relates to the administrations at almost every highly selective college and university where fraternities still exist. They are constantly being called to the mat for doing this wrong or behaving in this way poorly. But in many ways, the ways in which the individuals who occupy these fraternity houses or participate in fraternity activities actually behave is how red-blooded American males have behaved for decades. And obviously, if any red-blooded American male or anyone else on campus is doing something illegal, he or they should absolutely face the ramifications of breaking the law. But a lot of what red-blooded American males are being prevented from doing on American campuses these days is not illegal at all. It's just the typical behavior of a red-blooded American 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old male. But that type of behavior is increasingly not allowed on American college campuses. I could go on and on about different examples of that, about this. I'm not going to do it because ultimately I don't want my channel to turn into a den of iniquity. Iniquity. A den of iniquity. So I'm not going to do it because it's not appropriate for a college admissions channel. I'm not a channel that talks about this type of thing. And I've come up to the very border of what I'm going to talk about. But basically, red-blooded American men like to do certain things, right? And much of what they like to do is completely legal for consenting adults to do. But increasingly, that has been pathologized on American college campuses, particularly highly selective American college campuses. So the writing is on the wall. Red-blooded American males are not welcome on highly selective college campuses in the United States of America. The two examples that I just gave are just two. I could give more, but I'm not going to give more because I don't want to bore you to death. I don't want to seem like I am turning the red-blooded American male into a victim. I'm just stating what I believe to be objective information. You may disagree with it. If you do disagree with it, of course, you can share your thoughts below this video. Before I wrap the video up, I do want to talk, however, about what I would do if I was a red-blooded American male in 2024, or if you're watching this at all in the 2020s. This is my advice to all the red-blooded American males who are listening to me today and maybe have watched the other videos in this series. My advice is this. There is no free lunch. My great biology teacher from high school used to say this, Mr. Wright. There is no free lunch. This applies to both you, if you're a red-blooded American male, but this applies to everyone in every situation. There is no free lunch. Remember that. The piper will be paid at some point. That's point number one. Point number two is the following, which is do not bow your head. Do not stick your tail between your legs and go home. Do not play the victim. A lot of the things I've shared in this series would and should make you seriously question whether or not you want to attend a highly selective American college or university. However, my advice to you is this. Don't be dissuaded. Do not be intimidated. Do not let all the information out there, a lot of it concerning, scare you or force you, especially if you're a smart red-blooded American male, to throw his hands up and say, you know what, I'm going to just take a gap year. I don't know what to do with my life. Or woe is me. Maybe I just won't even go to college. I'll just, maybe I'll become, an employee at the local Best Buy or something. Or maybe I'd prefer to be an apprentice and maybe become a plumber. None of those things are bad, by the way. Like maybe you do want to become a plumber. There's nothing wrong with becoming a plumber. There's nothing wrong with working at Best Buy. There's nothing wrong with going to do a gap year. But don't do it if you're doing it because it seems like an easier path. That's not the reason to do it. Don't avoid challenge. Don't discount highly selective American colleges and universities because they seem to be unwelcoming places. Back in the day, highly selective American colleges were dominated by males, red-blooded American males in many cases. And there had to be pioneering women who stood up and said, I want to be here. And I'm going to go into an environment that is not receptive to me right now because I value what I can get out of that experience enough. If they could do it, you can do it. Do not allow all the ways in which the process is stacked against you and your value system and your disposition and your preferences to scare you from pursuing a higher education and the most challenging and demanding higher education and frankly, the most prestigious higher education you can pursue. If that's something that you value, challenging yourself, having a degree, and earning a degree from an institution that is typically associated with high caliber education. Now, whether it should be or not is, of course, up to debate. But if you want to challenge yourself, if you want to learn more in a particular area of study in order to prepare for maybe graduate school, maybe to become a lawyer or a politician or a doctor or a scientist or a researcher, or God knows what you want to be, an engineer, don't just go to your state school because it seems like it will be more fun and easier and more receptive to your type of personality. Don't discount highly selective American colleges or universities because they are obviously incredibly hostile to you and your value system. No, my advice would do the exact opposite. To actually lean in to the challenge, lean in to the hostility, lean in to going where you are not wanted. You have every right as an American citizen to pursue your goals, even if the place where you want to pursue your goals is extremely hostile to you and your kind these days. This is true if you're white, if you're Hispanic, and if you're Asian, and if you're Black. It's particularly hostile, I will be honest, to white and Asian red-blooded American males. There is much more deferential treatment toward Hispanic and Black red-blooded American males. But frankly, all races of red-blooded American males are increasingly feeling as though and treated as though they are sort of defective humans when they go to highly selective colleges and universities just because of their proclivities, their preferences, their disposition, their interests, what they like to do for fun at that age. Again, I think it's particularly bad for Asian and whites, and I've gone over that in other videos because of the way in which the admissions process is still structured in this country, particularly highly selective American colleges and universities. But if you're a Black red-blooded American male, or if you're a Hispanic red-blooded American male, you have to endure a lot of the same challenges that white and Asian American red-blooded American males have to endure. And so there's a lot of hurdles on your pathway toward actually reaching the Ivy League or other similarly selective colleges. But to all of you, I want you to know that there should be no challenge too great. And if your goal is to get a higher education, and the colleges that offer the type of education you want are some of these highly selected quote-unquote top colleges, do not be repelled by them because there are repulsive things going on these college campuses. Instead, gird yourself, prepare yourself, and take the mentality, as much as they don't want me is as much as I want to be there. That's what pioneering Black Americans did in a previously segregated United States. That's what pioneering women did in a previously segregated by sex United States. So there is no reason why you shouldn't have that same very optimistic, very positive, very forward-looking attitude, and do not be distracted by all the ways in which these colleges are inhospitable to you these days. Even if there is no red-blooded American male left on particular college campuses in the United States, does not mean that you cannot be the first red-blooded American male in a year or two, or maybe even a decade or two, to apply to and successfully attempt to earn your way into the colleges and universities you want to get into. And maybe you will be rejected, but maybe you will get in. And if you get in, do not allow a land acknowledgement or other ways in which they pathologize your interests and your preferences to dissuade you from taking on the challenge of actually matriculating into a highly selective or quote-unquote top American college or university. I have the same advice for every one of you, whether you are an Indian in Pune, India, or if you are a Brazilian in Brasilia, if you are an Australian in Sydney, if you are a Japanese person in Tokyo, whether you're female or you're male, gird yourself for the challenge that is the highly selective American college admissions process. If you want it, fight for it. If you want it, flaunt who you truly are. Do not make any apologies for who you are, and work your way through the college admissions process just like everyone else is working their way through the college admissions process by being the best versions of themselves that they can be. You got to play the game to win. And that would be my advice to you. Do not allow anything I've shared in this series to do anything other than educate you and inform you about the current state of play. Do not allow it to make you despondent. Do not allow it to in any way make you feel like you would better belong at another college or university, because there are many other people just like you who may want to find some kinship in someone like you on that college campus. So that would be my advice to you. Of course, there are some great state universities too. There are great other institutions that are not highly selective, and maybe they're the right fit for you for other reasons. And that's okay too, even if you're extremely smart. But if you are extremely smart, and if you are wanting to get the very best of the best, why should you feel like you can't get the best of the best at a place like Harvard or Columbia or Penn, just because they're obviously hostile to the red-blooded American male? No, screw that. Pursue your goals and do not allow anyone to dissuade you from pursuing your goals. So that's how I want to leave this series. Again, I could keep going, but I'm not going to keep going. This is not a pity party for anyone. Instead, this should be motivating to all individuals who chose to watch this series, that ultimately you've got to own who you are. And you should not have to make any apologies for who you are. And if they reject you for who you are, then like I said, screw them. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and also consider subscribing to my channel. If you want to work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process, go to my website, collegemeister.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.